Scary, scary, scary stuff. Let me officially welcome you to Capital Radio's This is Africa. I invited you specifically because as a creative, you've done something a few would venture to do, because so often we think about our comforts, we think about our reputation, we think about the next bread and think, if I do this, then it's going to affect me in the future. But you decided, no, the revolution must be televised and we must stage a sit-in. Firstly, introduce yourself to our audiences and then let's zoom into the conversation.
Yeah, good afternoon to your listeners. My name is Sibongile Mngoma. I'm a practitioner, a singer, teacher, music, and conductor, producer, director, I suppose. So I'm a very passionate arts practitioner.
Definitely. It's not you that says you are, it's the 11 days that have proven that Sibongile is indeed. We're going to ask later on whether you'll take up a post as the Minister of Arts and Culture, not sports, because at some point sports must be removed from the portfolio, but it's fine. For now, I just want to zoom into the Department of Sports and Culture. What is it about it that has caused so much angst around the creative arts sector?
What has caused the angst is the lack of care, the lack of accountability, the fact that they don't respond to emails, the fact that they don't respond to phone calls, their inability to engage the different sectors with integrity, I guess.
It's quite scary because you're not the first to say this, and I'm definite you're not the last. And some would link this to what we call cadet deployment, where you take somebody who's not a practitioner and you give them a political role, which has far-bearing influences as well as outcome for those who are in the sector. Would you say this is the case with the department?
Absolutely, it is. Because if it was based on merit, we shouldn't have these issues. But cadet deployment has definitely, I say it has brought the industry to its knees, because whoever comes in during their term doesn't have a vision. And you can't lead people without a vision, because you are leading them where? When they follow you, where are they going with you? It's just a case of the Pied Piper leading people to a stream where they could drown.
Definitely. And you know, I once attended a conference in PE hosted by the South African Cultural Observatory. And it was quite scary for me as a practitioner to be in a space where there was no definite statistic of the creative and cultural industry of South Africa. They deduced statistics from all over the world. When I asked, I think it was Professor Jane Snowball who was presenting at the time, and I said to her, please give us statistic around the sector in SA in terms of its contribution to the GDP. They make assumptions there, fine, that's a given. But I wanted to know, if you have a sector like this, how come there isn't a strict policy framework that is by the artists for the artists so that the sector thrives? What in your case has been both positives as well as failings of the current administration?
I have yet to encounter the positives, because it's just been negatives through and through. Look at how they have addressed the issue of COVID, the lockdown, the relief funding. There is no clear vision, no structure, no plan. And with an industry that was the first one to be locked down because of the nature of the work we do, there's got to be a plan. Somebody has to say, okay, because we are here now, what do we do? This is how we're going to do it. This is when we're going to do it. This is why we are going to do it. And it's just negatives all around. There are no positives from where I'm sitting, because I haven't as yet encountered anyone who has said it has worked for me.
As far as your memory can stretch, do you mind sharing with us what have you deduced as your conclusion regarding the term and tenure of Minister Nathi Mthethwa as the Minister of Arts and Culture?
I guess from where I'm sitting, he comes across as very disinterested because it's not something that he's passionate about, something that he is read up about. And in 8 years, he has, all 7 years, he hasn't really tried to understand the sectors and to try and find out what needs to be done. There is no consultation. It's all about bringing in people that would be yes people. And it's not about finding out what would work. What are the needs? What are the challenges? What can be done differently? You spoke about policy. There are policy documents that are sitting there that have not been touched. We have policies that are hanging, they just need to be signed, ratified, and all of that. But none of that is happening because of a lack of interest. So why then have a minister like that if you are serious about the creative and cultural economy? Then why have a minister who's disinterested?
You're currently staging a sit-in, and this is your 11th day. You are currently at the National Arts Council's offices. And I am certain you are the least favorite person now in that office. But did it have to come to this?
Well, it needed to, because, the lack of care and lack of regard and just the neglect is so rife in the different industries, offices, and the department itself, that you understand that at some point you have to come and engage, in your personal capacity physically, because if you keep phoning, they don't respond to phone calls. If you send an email, they pretend like they didn't receive them, or they just ignore them. So we had to come in here and try and talk to them. And when we don't get answers, then we wait until we get answers. And this is what we are doing. It's not like we came here to stage a sit-in. We're just waiting for answers.
And recently, the National Arts Council sacked its then CEO as well as the Chief Financial Officer. Do you feel that this is by any chance linked to the seeming rot, maladministration, and corruption and lack of accountability that you make mention of?
Well, the council member, Dr. Sibongile, at our meeting on Monday, actually said that the reason why the two senior managers were suspended is partially because of the PSP debacle. And I don't know what else, but because we came to talk about the PSP itself, he didn't mention anything else. He just said that it is part of it.
Yeah. Let's zoom into the PSP. What, in your experience, has been a dominant sentiment amongst creatives? So initially, the council issued out a call to say there's this stimulus package that has been created for the sector. If you are interested, apply. Take us through the process and what has been the outcome so far.
Well, they announced the PSP in October, and they announced the first closing date and the second closing date, which were respectively the 14th and the 21st of November. And then they said that by mid-December, they would have finished all the adjudication, and by mid-January, they would have finished all the payments, because there was a deadline for all projects to be finished by the 31st of March. And what has happened since then is that they've taken a long time, firstly, to finish the adjudication and make the announcement of those approved and those declined. And every time you try and find out what is happening, you will always be told either you're under review or somebody will get in touch. And then those that are approved receive their letters after a while. And then even with that, to get to the part where they sign the contract, it was a lot of dancing to and fro. And eventually people started signing their contracts, and they were told then after signing the contract they will be paid within 3 weeks. Except we are sitting now almost in the middle of March, and those contracts have not been honored. Not a first payment has been made. So it's been a strange experience. Even after they announced that they're done now with the process of adjudicating and everything, there are still people that are still on the system under review. Wow. And they haven't informed those that have been declined that they've been declined, so that they stop hoping that maybe something will come their way. And the ones that have been approved are still dancing to and fro because nothing happens that is right. In fact, lately, they've asked people who have signed their first contract to sign another contract, decreasing their budgets from the first contract. Now that's a breach of contract. It's become now a legal issue.
Yes, yes. I wonder though, to what extent has the previous board been complicit in the perpetuation of this rot? Because as far as I understand, the board is there for governance purposes and steering the ship toward the right direction, as it were. Now the CEO is sacked and the CFO is no longer there, but to what degree is the previous board going to be held accountable for allowing the rot to even lead to this?
Well, the new council said that the old council is responsible for the mess. That is the PSP. Yes. And when they came in, they halted all payments and they changed all the rules of engagement without consultation with the sector to say that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. And they just came in and they dictated this is what is going to happen, and essentially take it or leave it. If you don't like it, then take us to court. And they said it in those words. So I think from where I'm sitting, I can safely say I would say both councils are actually responsible for this mess. And they should all be investigated, particularly because there's also an issue of conflict of interest, because some of the new council members are recipients of this PSP. And according to the policy document of this institution, they are not supposed to even apply. So they shouldn't even be involved in that. They shouldn't be getting funds from any budget that is put out there for applications. So now there's a direct conflict of interest.
I'm asking that question intentionally because I know with the previous council, there were members who were enjoying monies that came from the National Arts Council, which was meant for the artists. And it never got to filter through to the artists who needed it the most, but certain council members would benefit from the proceeds of the National Arts Council. And I wanna zoom into this. Some may say the reason why the sector is in disarray is because there are so many, it's fractured, right, on so many angles. And one would make mention of the competing federations. Do you feel that this argument has any merit?
It has absolutely no merit, because think about it this way. It's the officials themselves who are perpetrating the divisions, because you cannot start a federation as a department of the government and then you say it represents all the sectors, the entire industry, and for 5 years you fail to bring in the organizations that are supposed to actually be part of this federation. Instead, the federation is made up of individuals. There's no form that people can fill out to join the federation. So a second federation being formed is essentially a correction of the mistake that was made, because federations are by definition organizations that represent organizations and are formed by organizations themselves. So they cause confusion so that they can say, you see, we are working, we are trying to fix the problem. Now, it's a manipulation, and it's a manipulative tool that is used to keep the industry fractured, so that you can keep saying, we are trying to unite the sectors. There's nothing like that. They cause this chaos. And because of that, it's an even stronger reason to call for the minister to actually be removed, because he causes more chaos than he brings in solutions.
I wonder though, because Parliament, as far as I understand, normally has a portfolio committee that is in charge of that specific department. Has the portfolio committee on arts ever been engaged? If so, what has been their response so far?
Well, there was a report given by DSAC on Thursday to the portfolio committee, which was so full of inaccuracies, and it was drafted in such a way that it gives the impression that the work has been done, there are no problems, everything is above board, and they are doing a fantastic job. Meanwhile, on the ground, artists are crying. They are not getting the assistance they're looking for. They are not even getting attention. So the portfolio committee has essentially been fed lies by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture.
It's quite scary though, you know, when you consider the effects of lockdown and when everyone was asked to stay indoors, the sector that kept us sane was the creative arts sector, isn't it? So if ever you wanted to binge on movies, you went to look at creatives who create content, who act in those movies. And when you wanted to unwind and distress from whatever was happening during lockdown, you listened to music by Sibongile, right? And, and then almost anything and everything we have is artistic. Everything and anything we have is creative. But why has there been an intentional snap of the sector? I don't even know if even President Ramaphosa is taking this seriously, because I've not heard him make any pronouncement. I've not seen him intervene. I've not seen any of the talking heads of government or the leading political party, the ANC, weighing in. But I know recently that I read that the EFF, the DA and other parties are seemingly taking interest. Is this true?
It is true. And, you know, the sad part is that we have reached out to the presidency to intervene and we haven't received a response. And the one thing that we have heard, not directly, but, you know, third parties, is that the presidency was told that, no, there's no problem. So they referred the issue back to the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, which then gives a report again to say that, no, that issue has been dealt with and everything is fine.
Are we likely to see a national shutdown, which I'm happy to support, all over provinces where artists are going to come together to say enough is enough?
I would hope that artists, wherever they are, would make their voices heard through their art. You know, the sit-in here at the NAC has been so special because artists have come out and activated using their art. So it's been a case of protest theater, which is the only way we're going to put a spotlight on what we do, as opposed to just, we don't want to we don't want to go on the streets and march, because there's a trigger happiness that is rife at the moment. We don't want anybody to be killed. We don't want anybody to be hurt. So the best thing that artists can do wherever they are is to go and activate with their art, and then use placards to say, government, actually take note. We are here. And this thing of arts and culture being a minor department is problematic. Not when, like you say, during lockdown, it was the only thing keeping people sane. So why then make it a minor? We are frontline workers, if you think about it this way.
Definitely, definitely. We should have been the first to get vaccinated, in fact.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah.
What would be your wish list as part of our conclusion? If you were to say now, here is the minister in front of you, or the president has finally listened to the creatives and he's giving them ear, what would be your wish list?
I'll start with the minister.
Sure.
My wish list would be, minister, let's agree. This is not your thing. It's not your calling. It's not your passion. Do the right thing. Step down. My wish list to the president, Mr. President, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. We have seen what has happened with the deployments. Now let's do the right thing. Let's get the right people in the offices of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, people who know the sectors, people who understand the economy of the sectors, people who want the sectors to work and to make an industry that contributes even double what they contribute right now to the GDP of this country.
Definitely. Miss Sibongile Mngoma, words fail if I have to start thanking you for the opportunity to share what has been a very, very historic activity that you have engaged together with your colleagues sitting in at the National Arts Council, not because you want to sit in as you rightfully stay. You also have obligations, you've got a life to live, you've got interests that you could be attending to, but because the matter is such that artists are being snubbed, the minister isn't responding, and I saw a hashtag that says Nati must go on Facebook. But I want to celebrate you as well as your colleagues for what you've done. It shouldn't have come to this. I wish, though, that people responsible for this mess are brought to account, and people not only brought to account, but even if it means legal proceedings and even arrests that need to be made are made. Because I think there needs to come a stop in South Africa where we say, don't just do things because you've seen that it's just a pat on the hand and then things slide. Something must be done eventually.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to be playing out with Coffee. The song is called Lockdown because you've essentially locked yourself down in the council offices. Thank you so much, and you have a great lockdown ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.